Good morning. Good morning to all of you. I'm so glad to see you here for worship this morning on this beautiful sunny day. We have a lot of visitors this morning. So let me introduce myself. I'm Reverend Dr. Debra Haffner, and you are so warmly welcome to our worship service. I want to particularly thank Linda Weaver and Beth DePasquale for all their work in putting together the drive-through yesterday, and the volunteers who helped. It was so good to see you in person. And we're going to be planning something for each of the coming months so that we can get together safely. This morning, we're going to be talking about self-esteem and self-love. And I am so pleased that I'm being joined this morning by my friend and colleague, Dr. James Wadley. I'm going to ask, there he is. Hi, James, good morning. I'll introduce James later to you in the service. He is an educator, a therapist, a sexologist extraordinaire, and an author of the book, Would You Marry Me? And thank you, James. I'm so glad you're with us today. This, as I think you know, has been a heartbreaking week in the United States. And so I have lit our candle of grief and lament for Daunte Wright, the 20-year-old Minneapolis man who was shot dead last week in a traffic stop in Minneapolis, not far from where the trial of George Floyd's murderer continues. This candle is also for Adam Toledo, a 13-year-old who was killed in Chicago by police this week. And then it's also for the 8 victims of the 19-year-old murderer in the Indianapolis shooting at the FedEx office. The horror of gun violence and police violence against brown and Black people continue unabated in our country. And yes, we need our prayers, but we need action on both. And so I am hoping that our Social Justice and Action Committee will offer us suggestions that we can put into our e-blast about what we can do now in light of these recent tragedies. And I have made a donation to Daunte Wright's family from the Ministerial Development Fund. May together we bring about an end to these twin systematic atrocities soon. And I ask you to hold these grieving people all across the country in your heart. I'm leading worship this morning with our wonderful worship team, Linda Weaver, our Director of Religious Education, Cynthia Young, our Director of Music, accompanist Jesse Leon. Nate Otto, our new AV Tech Coordinator, is running the technical side of worship this morning, and Beth DePasquale is our usher in the chat. I only have one announcement. The Interim Ministry Search Committee is set to meet with you after today's service in the breakout rooms, and I hope you will stay on and join them to have input into the search for your next interim minister. So, my friends, let me ask you to center yourself for worship. Take your deepest breath of the morning with me. And let us enjoy the Resistance Revival Chorus singing This Joy, which seemed especially appropriate to Cynthia and I this morning as we begin this service.
This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it, the world can't take it away. Oh, this strength that I have, this strength that I have, this strength that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This strength that I have. Oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Oh, this love that I have. This love that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This love that I have. Oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This love that I have, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. Singing, the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. pride that I have. This pride that I have. Oh yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. World didn't give it to me. This pride that I have. I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that? This pride that I have, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. All this peace that I have. Oh, yeah. The world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give me my peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. Won't you sing about peace? This peace that I have. Oh, yeah, now. The world didn't give it to me. I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. All this joy that I have, this joy that I have. This joy that I have. Oh, yeah, now, the world didn't give it to me. The world didn't give it to me. This joy I said the world didn't give it to me. Don't you know that this joy that I have, the world didn't give it to me. Oh, I said the world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. The world didn't give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away. Give it and the world can't take it away. The world didn't give it. The world can't take it away.
Resistance Revival Chorus believes in the words written by the poet Toy Darracott when she wrote, "Joy is an act of resistance." We believe in the words of Mr. Harry Belafonte, who said, "When the movement is strong, the music is strong." We sing to revive the hearts of those who fight for social justice, and we sing together for freedom.
And I needed that joy this morning, so I'm guessing some of you did as well. The opening words this morning are by my colleague, the Reverend Matthew Rosin. They're called You Matter. You matter. There is no one like you. Never will be again from the birth of the earth to its outmost end. You, an eager shout, a sacred yes that moves your flesh, your bone, your breath. You, she, he, they, you are whole and okay. Gracefully teaching your truth in your way. You cannot be forgotten. We cherish you so. Your hands and voice can do more than you know. You see old things anew. You turn them and test them. Your wonder exhausts our old words to express them. You speak loud and lay bare all we dig up and hold aloft from the dust of conventions grown cold. You upend every rock and pursue every glimmer and give a new name to each sparkle and shimmer. You chart out new paths, go beyond our horizons, new friendships, new stories, your hope always rising. You, welcome and wanted, whatever your skin, whatever the neighborhood you were born in. You play across fences that keep us divided. Old walls become weak where your love is ignited. You, there is no one like you. Never will be again from the birth of the earth to its outmost end. You matter. You do. We will keep learning with you. Now stand on our shoulders. Let us see what we can do.
Good morning. My name is Cynthia Young, and I am the music director at UUCR. Our opening hymn is actually not in our hymnal this morning. It is a round titled Love is Love is Love by Abby Bettinis. Your UUCR choir has created an interactive video, which includes a part for you. Your part will sound familiar. It is borrowed from the Beatles song, All You Need Is Love, with an important word change from you to we. And your part goes something like this. Love, love, love. All we need is love, love, love. In the video, the choir will begin, then I will appear, singing and conducting your part. So when you see me, join in. Since the song is around, the choir will be singing harmonies above and below you. We hope you will feel enveloped by the sound and the love. The words will appear in your chat box, so please sing along with us.
That was absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much to the choir, Cynthia and Jesse, for that lovely song. And good morning. My name is Linda Weaver. I'm the Director of Religious Education at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Ruston. As Reverend Debra lights the UU Ruston chalice, you may wish to light a candle in your own home. Our words this morning are adapted by the Reverend Charles A. Howe from an affirmation by Reverend Napoleon Lovely. We light this chalice to affirm that new light is ever waiting to break through to enlighten our ways, that new truth is ever waiting to break through to illumine our minds, and that new love is ever waiting to break through to warm our hearts. May we be open to this light and to the rich possibilities that it brings us.
In our church, we recommit to each other every Sunday by singing our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this church. We will sing along with our beautiful UUCR choir and congregation virtual video. The words will be in your chat box. If you are visiting us this morning for the very first time, please accept this song as our blessing to you.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its prayer. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth in love, and to help one another in fellowship.
This is the time in our service where we invite you to light a virtual or a real candle in your home for a joy or a concern that you are having in your life. You're invited to share that if you'd like in the chat box. Just please remember to write to all attendees, and remember that anything you write is public. Please take the time to read what each other is writing in the chat box. And when you're done, let me invite you into a time of meditation, reflection, and prayer as we listen to Jesse play Love Me by Yuruma. please join me in the spirit of meditation and prayer. Spirit of life and love, we feel your presence on this beautiful spring day. The birds in the background, the buds on the trees, our beautiful cherry trees and dogwoods and magnolias. The earth returning to its glory of this spring. And amidst all this beauty, we hold in our hearts those who have been once again victims of police brutality and gun violence. We hold in our hearts those in this community who are so worried about a brother and a sister who are so ill. We hold in our hearts those who have relationship problems, parenting issues, financial insecurities, employment difficulties, and we send them our love and our concern. And we are reminded that they didn't give us joy, and joy can't be taken away. The joy we feel at the marriage of a young one, not so young anymore, Morgan, who grew up in this community, married yesterday. Congratulations to Paul and Linda on this joyous occasion, and to Morgan for finding the person in his life. We celebrate with those who've gotten vaccines. We celebrate Bob and Marge as they celebrate their second anniversary, and Nani and Amy as they too celebrate their second wedding anniversary. And I think with joy of the happiness in the sanctuary when we were gathered together for those events. We celebrate with the coming and the hope that we can make a difference, that we have been given another day to be alive, to enjoy, to reach out, to take action, to be together. And so may it be, my friends. Amen. I'm so happy to be able to welcome Dr. James Wadley to UCR. And if we could spotlight him. Hi, James. I first met James in 2012 at the National Sex Education Conference. And James, you'll be interested to know that we have some of our sexology colleagues with us this morning. And I want my friends at UCR to know that each time I have gotten to be in a situation with James and watch him teach, I've just been blown away. And so I'm so happy to have you here. Let me just tell you a little bit about him. He's the professor and chair of counseling and human services at Lincoln University. As a scholar practitioner, he is a licensed professional counselor and maintains a private practice in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. Dr. Wadley is the founder and chair of the Association of Black Sexologists and Clinicians, an interdisciplinary professional organization dedicated to improving the sexual expression and lives of people and persons of African descent. So good morning, James. I'm so glad to have you here.
Good morning to you and to everyone else. As you mentioned before, it is such a beautiful day outside.
And one of the pleasures of Zoom is I've gotten to bring people in to have these conversations with me. And so thank you for making yourself available. So James wrote a book. He could show you, let's show them a copy of the book.
All right.
Called Would You Marry Yourself? And I was just so intrigued by this idea. So let's have some background. What were you seeing in your couples counseling or your individual counseling? Is it important to you to write this book?
So just a little bit about me. I'm a marriage, family, and sexuality therapist in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. And so it just so happens that for one of the couples who I was spending time with, they were struggling with issues around infidelity as well as parenting. And so the couple at the time, they continued to go back and forth trying to negotiate what intimacy should look like, as well as what their roles would be for their family and their children. So it was a heterosexual couple, and the guy continued to berate his wife around what she did do and what she didn't do and that sort of thing. So after a while, I kind of got fed up, and I asked the guy, I said, knowing what you know about yourself, would you want to marry somebody like you? So then the guy kind of sat there, he got quiet, and he said, no. And so I said, well, why would you ever expect your wife to put up with the crap that you give to her? So then that birthed the idea of putting together a book to empower individuals and couples to think about the role that they play in their relationships, but also how positively or negatively they feel about themselves.
Yeah, so I love the questions you ask, and some of the books actually kind of funny, right? But questions like, would you marry you if you hated the way your body looked? Or would you marry you if you were a workaholic? Or would you marry yourself if you'd never forgiven yourself? So I'm interested, what do you think are the most important questions we need to know about ourselves before? I love that you ask us to make a commitment to our own self so that we can live happily ever after.
Right. So whether an individual is partnered with somebody or not, I think it's important that we ask ourselves these critical questions about how positively or negatively we feel about ourselves, and whether or not we would be willing to make a lifetime commitment to just being comfortable in our own skin. So as you alluded to, that there are several passages in the book that invite people to do a different kind of introspection about how they feel about themselves, as well as how they feel about themselves long term.
Yeah. So are there, like, what do you think are the most important of those questions?
Well, the book has over X number of different questions that people can ask themselves, and I think one of the more critical questions is, as you alluded to, is around aesthetics. So if I don't feel positively or comfortable enough in my own skin or with my own body, or maybe with my own skin tone, how could I ever expect somebody else to feel comfortable with me, with how positively or negatively they may feel about me? And so whether it's aesthetics, whether it's political affiliation, whether it's around completing chores around the house, whether it's around work habits, whether it's around personal hygiene. So would you marry yourself if you haven't taken a shower in several weeks? Now, obviously, that's a question around privilege and the access that people may have to exercising personal hygiene. But if you are fortunate or privileged or blessed to have access to resources where you can shower or wash up or even wash or sanitize your hands in this COVID-19 era, why would you want somebody else to have to put up with you not following through with taking care of yourself?
Yeah, so I was just thinking, like, a 2021 update is, would you marry you if you wouldn't wear a mask, right?
Right. Sometimes these folks, at least for folks who I spend time with, they want to give out some of these COVID-related kisses. And I'm like, hey, whoa, where's your mask at? Step back.
So, you know that a central component of religious teaching is do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We see that in almost every religion. Or Jesus said, love your neighbor as yourself. And people often forget the as yourself part. Yeah. Or even Whitney taught us, right? Learning to love yourself is the greatest love of all.
Right.
But it's hard, right? So many of us suffer from low self-esteem or depression, anxiety, other mental health challenges. What's your advice? How do we come to love ourselves? What counsel would you have for any of us out here who's struggling to love ourselves?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The adage, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, that assumes that people always feel positively about themselves and their experiences. Ah. And so if I hate myself, then should I expect people to treat me in a hateful manner just because I hate myself? And so again, the book, flash it one more time, the book is a wonderful tool for people to have these critical conversations with themselves about, again, how positively or negatively they feel about themselves, but also the expectation that they may have of other people loving them back. Mm-hmm. And so it's difficult when people don't love themselves. And so the work that I do a lot of affirmative work, where whoever you are, whatever space that you're in, or however you feel about yourself, we're going to spend some time talking about self-empowerment and self-advocacy. And then for the couples who I spend time with, I have couples, again, who will go back and forth all day long. And so what I use is a strengths-based approach around them acknowledging how positively their partners have been in their lives.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to want to drill down a little bit, like on a very practical level, what kind of things can we do to make ourselves more satisfied with who we are?
Right. So one of the things that we can do in terms of feeling positively about ourselves is sometimes we have friends, family, and colleagues who can see the positive elements of who we are, but we can't see it. And sometimes when people offer us compliments, sometimes less is better. If you say, James, I like your tie today, I'm not going to say, well, you know what, this tie, it's not this, or it's not that, or whatever. I'm going to say, thank you, Debra, for the wonderful compliment, and then walk away. Because sometimes we don't feel positive about when people say nice things about us. So spending time with others who value our company, who value the experience that we have, and then also, we should also try to spend time with ourselves, getting to know what our hobbies and interests are, and those things that allow us to smile at ourselves. And so one of the things that I did in between the break earlier is I ran to Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. So I needed to feel positively about my morning and kind of jumpstart where I was at. This isn't a promo for Dunkin' Donuts, but it's one of the things that I did for self-care. So good self-care goes a long way. And it's important that we be mindful of those things that allow us to be ourselves.
So let me just do a follow-up question, which is, when do we need therapy? When should we reach out, to a professional or a minister or someone else for some help on this?
Yes. So whether it's therapy, whether it's a minister, whether it's a best friend or a parent, someone who can help us, guide us to be the better version of ourselves, not with a lot of criticism, but with a lot of support and a lot of empowerment. And so in terms of therapy, if you suspect that there may be some sort of mental or emotional or relational health challenge, you reach out to a therapist to get the support that you may need in order to evolve into becoming something different.
Yeah. So I would just really encourage folks listening, if you're thinking, that you do reach out. So I'm going to switch the topic a little bit, because as I talked about when I lit the candle of lament and grief this morning, it's been a really horrible week, and I'm braced, as I'm sure you are, for what's going to come this week with the verdict. So I know you're the president of the Association of Black Sexologists and Clinicians, and I read, I think maybe on Facebook, that you're working this week to help prepare other therapists to work with Black and Brown people on these twin tragedies in Minnesota. Our church has made a commitment to work to advance equity and inclusion in our community, and we have said that racial justice will be our key priority during the next 3 years. So at this critical moment, we are predominantly white, not all white. We do have BIPOC folks, but we're predominantly a white progressive church. What do we need to do to be effective allies? And goodness, what can we do about the police?
Yeah, and so I'll share that not all police are challenged, and sometimes being a police officer or a law enforcement official, there are moment-to-moment thought processes that happen that enable some people to make decisions faster than others. So for me, I look down at the bottom of the screen, I see that there are 112 participants on this Zoom call. For me, that means that there are 112 tentacles that need to go out into our communities and get away from our offices, our businesses, our practices, or whatever professional setting that we work in, and do some community outreach. Sometimes community outreach is uncomfortable, and sometimes we have to be open to spending time with people who don't look like us in order to have a different experience of ourselves in these challenged spaces. And so if we're watching the news or watching whatever report of what's going on in Minnesota and some of these other places where Black lives are being slain, it's important that we reach out to the Black lives in our own community, or the Black and Brown lives in our own community, and say, hey, I'm here. Hey, I can support you, or I'm open to support. Tell me what kind of support you need. But if we finish this service and the 110 people who are on the service don't do anything, then the same thing will happen. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And so these tie together, right? That is being anti-racist, making a commitment to being anti-racist part of learning to love yourself?
Yes. And I'll share that I can be anti-racist all day long and continue to sit here in my basement telling folks I'm anti-racist. And being anti-racist means I need to do something for the love of God. I don't know if I can say that here. For the love of God, it's a beautiful day. Go do some community service. Go help somebody who may need the support and resources that you can offer to them.
Yeah, and we have lots of opportunities here, where we make available opportunities to do things. And actually, even though it says there are 110, a lot of these people have multiple people sitting at their computers. So we're probably closer to about 160 people. And surely we want people to think about what they can do. And one of the things I would say is that this week, when that verdict comes down, be sure to reach out to the Black and brown people in your life. I also want to just tell you, James, you went to the University of Kentucky, right?
Yes, I did. Wildcat at heart.
So Marcia Hughes-Reese, who's one of our members, was the first African-American woman to graduate from the nursing school.
Oh, wow, congratulations.
And she wondered if you were one of the few African-Americans in your program.
Yes. Kentucky, University of Kentucky was the University of Kentucky. And at the time, there was a woman who was there who was above me. So yeah, we had a couple of people of color in our department, in our program. And love my old Kentucky home, but Kentucky is Kentucky. So shout out to Marcia for being the first woman to graduate from the nursing program. And I still bleed Kentucky blue.
Okay, good. So James, I'm going to wrap us up here. We could talk all day, right? And one day we'll be back at a conference and I'll buy you a drink or something, okay?
Perfect.
So my final question is, James, would you marry you? And what hope can you offer people who are saying no this morning?
Yeah, I would say, and I don't know if I can say this in a church service, and I'm going to say it, I'm going to step out on a limb, Deborah. I would say, hell yeah, I would definitely marry myself. I'm a nice guy. I'm a compassionate guy. I'm a warm guy. I'm a dedicated guy. And for those folks who are struggling with the challenge of feeling positively about themselves, I would say reach out to somebody and get some support, whether it's a therapist, pastor, minister, best friend, or family. And you can learn more. I just saw in the chat, the name of the book is Would You Marry You? It can be found on Amazon. It's a coffee table book. It's a wonderful opportunity for you and your friends to have a conversation about whether or not you would marry yourself.
So James, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And thank you for how you bless the world. You surely bring blessings.
Thank you, everybody. And everyone be blessed.
And we're going to turn it to our final hymn now.
Our closing hymn is number 368. Now let us sing to the power of the faith within. Thank you so much to Laura Weiss, Director of Music at the UU Congregation of Fairfax, for sharing her recording with us. The words will appear in the video itself. Please join in with Laura, who sings both parts and plays the piano in this wonderful recording of Now Let Us Sing.
Now let us sing, 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 sing. Now let
were singing. I was kind of dancing here a little bit. The closing words are from a poem by Joy Harjo. I've read from her before. She is an internationally renowned writer of the Muscogee Creek Nation, and she is serving her third term as the Poet Laureate of the United States. Her poem, For Calling the Spirit Back, seems to me wise guidance on how we might go about loving herself. And I've excerpted it because it's a long poem, so I hope you will look it up on the internet and read it all. She writes, put down that bag of potato chips, that white bread, that bottle of pop. Turn off your cell phone, your computer, put down the remote control. Open the door and then close it behind you. Take a breath offered by friendly winds. They travel the earth gathering essences of plants to clean. Give back with gratitude. If you sing, it will give your spirit lift to fly to the stars, ears, and back. Acknowledge the earth who has cared for you since you were a dream, planting itself precisely within your parents' desire. The journey might take you a few hours, a day, a year, a few years, 100, 1,000, or even more. Watch your mind. Without training, it might run away and leave your heart for the immense human feast set by the thieves of time. Do not hold regrets. Let go of the pain you are holding in your mind, your shoulders, your heart, all the way down to your feet. Let go of the pain of your ancestors to make way for those who are heading in our direction. Ask for forgiveness. Call upon the help of those who love you. Call yourself back. You must call in a way that your spirit will want to return. Speak to it as you would a beloved child. Welcome your spirit back from its wandering. It will return in pieces and tatters and gather them together. They will be happy to have been found after being so lost for so long. Your spirit will need to sleep a while after it is bathed, then you'll need to give it clean clothes. Now, have a party. Invite everyone you know who loves and supports you. Keep room for those who have no other place to go. Give things away and remember, keep the speeches short. And then we must do this. Help the next person find their way through the dark. So, yeah, good advice, right? Love yourself. So as we worked on this service, I kept hearing this song, and it's not a typical church song, but I asked Cynthia and Jesse if it could be played. And so the song that I kept hearing was, Will You Marry Me, Bill, by the Fifth Dimension. And so as we listen to Jesse sing, and as you play along and maybe even get up in your home and move your body, I wonder, how would you answer, my friends? Are you ready to marry yourself till death do you part?
I love you so, always will. I look at you and see the passion eyes of May. Oh, but am I ever gonna see my wedding bells? Oh, I was on your side, Bill, when you were losing. I'd never scheme or lie, Bill. There's been no fooling, but kisses and love won't carry me till you marry me, Bill. Bill, I love you so, always will. And in your voice I hear a choir of carousels. Oh, but am I ever gonna hear my wedding bells? I was the one came running when you were lonely. I haven't lived one day not loving you only. But kisses and love won't carry me till you marry me, Bill. I love you so, always will. And though devotion rules my heart, I take no vows. But Bill, you know I wanna take my wedding vows. Come on, Bill. So come on, Bill. Come on and marry me, Bill. Come on and marry me, Bill. I love you so, I always will. Come on and marry me, Bill. I love you so, I always will. Come on and marry me, Bill. I love you so, I always will. Come on and marry me, Bill.
Thank you, Jesse. And Jesse's such a good sport. I come up with these things and he goes and finds them. So that was great way to end the service. And thank you for your kind notes. Please do use the chat room as a virtual reception line. I want to thank Dr. James Wadley again. What a pleasure to have this conversation with him. Before we start our breakout rooms, as you know, we ask you to make a contribution to our virtual collection plate, which will be in a link in the slide, and it will also be in the chat box, or you can mail in your check to UUCR with collection in the memo line. We do count on these collections. Please do log in to the breakout rooms, but wait for Jesse to play. He's going to play for you one more time. But this is your opportunity to give input to the interim ministry search team this morning. Know how much we appreciate being able to do worship with you. Before we put up the offering slide, let me close with the words I end with each week. My friends, go in peace. Love yourself. You matter. May our real service begin.